There we go. It's
wow. Okay, we just came straight in. Hello.
Yes. No intros here. We're all family. It's the Olive Garden. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this buddy reading extravaganza. I haven't had one in a while, and I'm very happy to welcome my friend Tiffany to talk about an amazing book. So here's the book that's amazing, and I could just say Tiffany is amazing as well. So
yours looks different.
Does it? My name is Margaret.
Bottom. Mine doesn't have that, like the little march and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if it's because I got mine from the library.
Maybe yours is a newer version, because this one, the spine is broken. 1998, originally published 1998.
You said 98? Let's see.
Yeah, I think this is 99. So this is maybe like the next year printing. So this is an oldie. But we're here today to talk about this book. And I wanted to just say, Tiffany, if you don't know who Tiffany is, she's great. She's a fellow indie author. She writes romance. She's got a lot of great series going. So if you subscribe to her channel, you'll be doing reading sprints. You'll be doing world building. So if you're an author tuber, her channel is a great place to be. Yeah, and she loves using great tools. So look behind her. You see some of the tool background, I think. But
well, yeah. I figured you didn't want the crazy background of my bedroom. The office is a work in progress. It's been a work in progress for like a year. So, hopefully the progress will go further next year.
There we go. So that's where you can subscribe to Russell Lifestyle, and please do subscribe. I tried to find the original email where I proposed or wrote to you about buddy reading, and the earliest I could find was September. But I think it was before that. So I think I said I have this book to read.
I think you were on a live stream.
I'll read it with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a while ago. So it took us a little while, but it is quite a chunker. And there's my lovely tabs. So what's your history with the book? How did you know about John Lewis? And was this on your TBR eventual or inspired?
Actually knew nothing about the book until you mentioned it.
Okay.
But I do know John Lewis. I actually huge fan. I followed a bit of his political career.
Mm-hmm.
And then my father he's a latent civil rights follower.
Yeah.
Like he likes to know the history of it, even though technically he was probably old enough to be part of it.
Okay.
But he likes to kind of know the history of. And my father and I have never delved into say why he was or was not part of it. Mm-hmm. But we have done, like the normal questions you ask, like, do you remember how old you were when Rosa Parks was arrested, or when Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, or, stuff like that. Like, he definitely remembers that. He was in school. So maybe he wasn't quite old enough, because I think he was in high school. Because he said he remembered them announcing it over the PA. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up the book in a used bookstore and was like, this would be really good to know. I'm interested in history of activism and also any and all strategies that have worked in the past, because I think I need 10 fingers and 10 toes of possibilities in the fights to come, right? So I was really interested in knowing how they persisted and how they did community engagement, what strategies or what attitudes influenced that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so this book is from his childhood to basically his first successful run for Congress and getting into Congress. And so it was a good chunk of his life, but then he went on for a couple of decades as congressional representative from Georgia, and
I think almost until he passed away.
Yes.
I want to say he gave up his seat maybe a year and a half, I think, before he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Even a little bit less than that, but I think that was about where he was at.
Gotcha. So that's sort of our background here, and we're going to be talking about the book John Lewis and Michael Dorso. So I'm just going to ask, first of all, what do you think about co-writers? It says, and Michael Dorso. And I was like, oh, I wonder how much he shaped it. Like, it came out really well. I thought it was a really well told story. The endings of the chapters all had like a little hook.
Yeah.
Titles were great. You know, like a lot of things fall down usually.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think the structure was probably Michael. But I think a lot of it was John Lewis, and mostly because I've seen other things that he's written that weren't necessarily like fiction. But, and I mean, if you've ever heard him speak, he was an amazing storyteller. So I don't doubt that there was not. The few times I have heard, like, seen or heard of him speaking, they might have. And if anybody's ever been to a Baptist church, he was a Baptist preacher. They sometimes take you through half the country to get to the point. So
very familiar rhetorical devices. Yes, that's right.
So I don't doubt that there also might have been some moments where Michael was like, yeah, okay, we're going to cut about 15% of that story.
Very readable, in other words. So I think it was a very good product. For sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't count. I mean, you know, one of my favorite parts that I read was when he was talking about preaching to the chickens. So I'm like, he knew as a kid. He was like, yeah, he's been doing this as a kid. His sermons were probably like, hello.
Yes, he took that job very seriously. One of the things in his childhood was taking care of the chickens for the family, and he got very attached to them to the point where, like, he didn't want to eat them, and, you know, some of the predictable things. But in a rural, I think it was Alabama, because it was Pike County, it was just on the other side of the state that he represented eventually. But rural Alabama, you know, like, you wouldn't expect someone to be so soft-hearted to chickens, but he took that job seriously. And I think that's just a theme that started early and went his whole life, you know?
And I can say, not from personal experience, but from personal stories I've been told from my great-grandmother, who traumatized me as a child, talking about how great fresh caught chickens were.
Oh dear.
And then how you go out and catch the chickens and wring the necks and everything else. Yeah, no, they were not that involved in their chickens.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to say hi to the chat. Hello, everybody. Catpaw says Tiffany is the queen of interesting backgrounds. Love it.
Thank you, Catpaw.
Night. Hello. And Ania is here. Hello.
Oh my gosh, I had Nia's Twitch stream up, thinking I was just, again, paying all types of attention and being there for her. And I always forget when I put my headphones on, they connect to both.
Oh no.
If I start watching something on the TV, it pauses. And her stream is not the only one that lately I have, like, all of a sudden turned over and was like, wait, this isn't on.
Yeah. I think the classic, I might share this title, queen of this move with Eva, is that you get ready for something early and you leave it on, and then it doesn't automatically start when the person starts, and then you're like 3 minutes late and you're like, oh, I was here early. All right.
So fun.
Thank you all for being here. And I'm just pointing out, if you have a question about John Lewis or want to hear about a specific aspect and whether it's covered in the book, feel free to drop that in. I'm going to go through some of the pieces that I found the most meaningful and form them into questions somehow. And then Tiffany is going to be free to do the same. So we'll just sort of toss it back and forth. And yeah. Okay, so here we go.
Did your little thing say, because I know I have one, like, if it's a question mark with a Q, did you say that or something?
I didn't. I figure I'll get it.
Just curious.
So I really loved the introductory story that explained the title, Walking with the Wind.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, so it's Tornado country, I should say, where he grew up, and he has a memory as a young child of going to a house where there was a bunch of kids and one adult, and the adult was looking after the kids in the middle of a tornado.
I want to say it was his aunt or maybe his grandmother. It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Older relative, but it was like one adult to like 8 or 9 kids. And so the house wasn't very well built or solid on its foundations. And in the tornado, they were feeling it come up at different points. And so the adult would get all the kids to go to that corner and, you know, sit there and hold the house down. And when the wind picked up another corner, they'd go to that corner and sit down. And so you just get this image of them walking to hold down the house from the tornado. And it felt really powerful and a great title.
I will say, starting out reading it, and it's not an experience I've had a lot in books that I've read, and probably because when it's something like this, I'm not a big like audible book. I don't know what I was
audio book.
Say the original time. Thank you. Audio book kind of person.
Yeah.
But when it is a like a memoir and it's read by like the person, you know, who's done it, I find that I'm more intrigued and I like to get into it. I like to hear them. I feel like they express themselves a little bit better because it's their life, you know.
Yeah. There's no audiobook.
Did you find one? Couldn't find it anywhere. So and I came real close to just buying it on, you know, the Amazon and having it read to me because I have all the little machineries and everything. But I ended up finding it at the library, so I just went ahead and got it that way. But I can't say a lot of the books that I've read have done this because most of them are just fiction. But it's one of those that, like, just reading the beginning part, I was like, oh, this has the potential to be life-changing. And I don't know if I've really felt that a lot with a lot of the different books that I've actually read. Right. And I was like, that's powerful. That if you can convey that type of feeling in, like, before you even get to chapter 1.
Yeah, especially like, political books. I've got favorite political books, and I have to say a lot of them are very analytical and very detailed and very, you know, causes that I hold dear, but they don't always have the same, like, I'm sharing the person who I am kind of element, which was really present in this. Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know if they're, because I haven't read a lot of political books. I've read a few, but the ones that I've read felt like they're trying to not necessarily persuade you, but explain to you why their point is important.
Right. I mean, valid. That's what politics is, right? Yeah.
You know, and so it's very much like, this is why, this is what I stand for, and this is this. And his was just like, this is who I am. This is how I was brought up. This is who my family is. This is why this was important to me.
Yeah.
Hope you see it. Hope you feel it. Hope you understand.
Okay, I'm going to read a little bit of a paragraph from page 64, which was the Spirit of History introduction. This is the first time I've heard him say this, or like anyone maybe. It was at this time that I began believing in what I call the spirit of history. Others might call it fate or destiny or a guiding hand. Whatever it is called, I came to believe that this force is on the side of what is good, of what is right and just. It is the essence of the moral force of the universe, and at certain points in life, in the flow of human existence and circumstances, this force, this spirit finds you or selects you. It chases you down, and you have no choice. You must allow yourself to be used, to be guided by this force, and to carry out what must be done. To me, that concept of surrender, of giving yourself over to something inexorable, something so much larger than yourself, is the basis of what we call faith. And it's the first and most crucial step toward opening yourself to the spirit of history. And I was like, there we go. That's not religion, but that's totally like what I want to feel and like what I want to believe in, but it's so hard, you know. Here he's like spelling it out with this beautiful introduction.
I took a class, I don't know, it was 8,000 years ago. Maybe not quite that long. 2,000. But one of the things that they were talking about, and it wasn't even so much of like teaching you how to sell or anything like that. It was supposed to be like a self-improvement type of movement class that one of my friends talked me into doing. But one of the things that they talked about was, if you can get people to understand like your why of something, you can get them to follow you way easier than you can trying to explain to them why they should. And so I think that that's like a really good point of this book, is like, he's just telling you his why. He's just telling you why this is important to him, why he gave his life for this type of cause. you know, and not to the point of like he was martyred or anything like that, but just dedicated his life, I guess, to this cause, and why he was so passionate about it, why he's still so passionate about it, you know, up until his death. And that's what draws you in, is kind of that idea of tell me more.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that it's not that he was steeped in it from a young age, because of several points he talks about his parents being against leaving the hometown, against going to college, against raising the ruckus that they did when they did Nashville sit-ins, like all these things that his parents were like, no, I'm not touching that. That's dangerous. Like, you don't need to do that. What are you doing?
Well, you can go back to the beginning, even when they were out in the fields and he was like, this is crap work. And his mom's like, you don't speak back about your work. You know, like, you don't, I can't remember exactly her statement, but she was like, it just bothers you. He'd be like, his mom, his dad, his brothers and sisters, all of them were just like, shut up.
Right. Stick your neck out, basically, like the tall
type of a thing. So so even as a child, you know, his family was like, don't rock the boat. And he's like, nah, we're gonna tip it over.
He just had a gentle way of being like, this is my road, this is how I got on it. And, you know, other people had different choices to make. One of the other things I thought was interesting was a comment about you can't force other people to make moral decisions. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to think about that one, because it's really hard to think about. Okay, so you're convinced of something being right, and you want to explain it in a way that someone else can see your why, right? You know, like why, you know, it's wrong to have ICE on the streets rounding up people willy-nilly with no cause, right? And so you're trying to explain the Bill of Rights. You're trying to explain like the purpose of the laws we have that guide this, and you want people to join you in that. But like there's a point at which you have to let people discover their own boundaries, I guess, and moral guiding force. And sometimes that can be really frustrating.
My father and I have this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm not going to say that, you know, I'm an advocate for climate change. I don't know if I'd necessarily say that I'm, you know, like, I'm not out in marches. I'm not, you know, like passing out flyers or stuff like that. But I try to do what I can for, you know, like, to be a friend to the environment.
Yeah.
My father, on the other hand, hates garbage in the kitchen. So he uses a plastic bag every single day to put all the trash in and throw it away. And I'm like, you are killing every single tree in our world.
You get him a bathroom-sized trash can so we can just like use that.
And he took it out of the kitchen. Oh we go back and forth about this all the time. And his argument is the tree's already cut down because I have the bag. And
trees I'm like plastic.
But if we stop taking back, like using the bags, and when we go to the grocery store, all those bags that I keep in the trunk of the car, you could take them in and then put them in there. Well, then what's the bag boy going to do? So then they'll fire him and he has no job. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he can bag those bags. Right. It's a constant struggle, to the point that, kind of like John Lewis, I have to be like, you know what? I can do what I can for the environment in my own way. My father's in his 70s. At this point, I'm probably not going to change him. And it's like, let's try to figure it out. But we have that constantly about kind of that idea.
What's shocking is that often the people who are not understanding or not seeing eye to eye are younger people to me. So I'm in my 40s, and it'll be younger people who know. They know the answer. They know I'm wrong. They like don't need to listen. And I'm like, where'd you get your facts? You know, let's start there, you know?
So it's a constant. And I mean, that's just one of the things that my father and I go back and forth about in a kind of ethical, or, you know, I see things one way, you see them another kind of a conversation. But you do have to let every single person kind of find their own way. And that was one of the things that my mother was really great about like, this is my way of how I see things. I'm going to tell you both. you make your choice. And that's kind of how I've always been. Like, I'm going to give you what I can give you. You know, you have to find your own way. I don't have to answer for your mistakes.
Independence and responsibility. That's kind of how you model it. Yeah. There's a lot in this book about nonviolence and like the actual philosophy and theory and tenets. And it looks like John Lewis mainly poured over this in his first couple years at ABT. I can't remember exactly what the name. It was like all Bible,
something like that.
Seminary, but the Bible college that he went to in Nashville. And he threw himself into his studies. He was really interested in philosophy and the principles of Gandhi and nonviolence. And this is what sort of drew him to how we change the system. What were there any of those that popped up to you? Because I think I've got like 3 different quotes that were about that. So
not quotes per se, but I think the thing that popped up to me, and I don't know if it's necessarily partially in that specific spot, I wasn't like more, I didn't make notes.
Meditation tools, yeah.
I'm like, it was in a spot. But I loved, in the sense of wanting to be nonviolent, because it's very easy to say, and then in the moment, you know, somebody slaps you, like your first reaction, your first instinct is like either to push them or slap them back, you know, type of a conversation. And so I love the fact that they were so committed to this that they practiced it.
Right.
You know, like in
otherwise your instincts will flood in.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so I that part really kind of struck me. And I knew that ahead of time, you know, because I've gone to different events and heard different people speak. But the way that he described kind of like how they were practicing and like building up almost that muscle of being nonviolent it was, I don't know, it hit me a little bit differently than I think hearing it like in a lecture or something like that.
Yeah.
And probably more so, and maybe this is a testament to the way he did the book, because I think at the beginning I was like, wow, do we really need to go all the way back to your childhood, you know, to get where we're going? But in the sense of he took us along for the ride. And so you were so invested that you're just like, I mean, I know that's your friend and all, but like afterwards, we would have had to have a conversation. Like that hit was a little bit too hard. You know, I don't need you to be that in character. Kind of a something. So yeah. So that was part of what really kind of hit me in that sense of the nonviolence. And just, I mean, he's obviously a man of faith, you know, and a deep rooted faith. And he could have easily gone into, you know, biblically an eye for an eye, or, you know, tooth for a tooth or something like that. You know, he could have gone into like the biblical implications or the church implications of it. And he didn't. He just talked about like kind of the civil of it and the sense of letting the world see we're not the people that are wrong. You know, like we're not the ones. You want to say that as Black people, we're violent, and yet we're sitting here peacefully. And they're the ones that are doing it. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, he kind of leaned into that more so than just kind of the scripture area of where he could have gone with it. Because in our world, like sometimes when you start to preach to people, they're like, type
right.
of a thing.
End of discussion.
Yeah. Right. And so I love that he kind of gave that aspect of it. Like, I'm not going to preach to you about it. I'm just going to share where we were coming from mindset wise. Right.
Yeah. And I think that strategy relied a lot on media coverage, videotapes, because if you do that in the closed circuit of the racist community, like they don't care. They're living alongside it and not caring at all. Right. But if you broadcast it into homes where that is not the norm or that is not seen and publicized, it is horrifying. And then you get a reaction. That's what you get action from. Yeah.
And that plays a part, and we're not there yet, but it does play a part later on in some of the things that happen.
Yeah. So I was going to bring up, when you were talking about the practicing, I was looking up one of my quotes from page 187. So he talks about faith. He talks about feeling like an early missionary of the early Christian church, and that you went out and you're like, you don't have any money. You're depending on the people that you're preaching to like house you and feed you. And you're just going out with your modeling and you're listening and you're conversing. Right. Let's see. I just said that. Whatever the people were doing, we were there with them, really there. We lived with them. Sorry for the dogs barking. In their homes, held hands and prayed with them, shared their food, shared their beds, shared their worries and their hopes. We listened to them. Before we ever got around to sharing what we had to say, we listened. And in the process, this is the part I love, we built up both their trust in us and their confidence in themselves. Essentially, we were out to spread faith and courage, and naturally, we had to find those things in ourselves first. I was like, that's how you do engagement. You know, it's respectful of the people you're reaching out to, but it also requires pre-work and practice for yourself. I was like, yeah, I like that.
And to that part, just bringing it into now.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like that's where, at least for me, some of the breakdown is because I'll listen all day. You know, like I want to know your perspective. I want to know why you see it that way, because it doesn't make sense to me. So I need to know why it makes sense to you, because I'm not tracking.
Yeah.
But it does feel like in this day and age, there are people like myself who are so willing to listen, but the other side is not willing to sit down and talk. Yeah. And I'm like, please just sit down and talk. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to argue. We can have healthy debate. One of my really good friends when I lived in Colorado was on the whole other side of the political aisle than me. You know, we had vast differences in what we believed in, what we voted on. We would have debates about it.
Yeah.
All types of different things. She's still one of my really good friends. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can be in that space sometimes with people. You just got to be willing to listen and give them the respect to say what it is that they want to say. And I think that that was a beautiful way also of kind of bringing people into the movement, of just being like, look, you know, you opened your hearts and your house to us. Tell us why, you know, tell us what we can do. Tell us how we can help. Tell us, you know, why this is important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got, let's see, some of the other nonviolent instances I'll just go over. When he was in college, he talked about the nonviolence principles of Gandhi, ahimsa and satyagraha. And I was like, that's impressive. He has those in his back pocket 50 years later. Like, that was pretty impressive to me.
I had to look up the last one because I was like, I don't know this person.
Yeah, I don't either though. So I was like, wow, this is a lot. And then the sit-ins in Nashville, where they were at the lunch counters, they said after months of sitting in and like going through all the different steps and sort of back and forth about strategies and stuff, they finally allowed people in to eat at the regular counter. And I don't remember what the phrasing was, but he says they didn't publicize anything about it, but that was fine with us, because when justice is achieved, there's no losers. So that's all that they wanted. They didn't need to claim a victory. It was just, when one of the nonviolent principles is there's no losers when justice is achieved. And so like, just go on your merry way. And we got it. And I'm like, a lot of people are obsessed with claiming victory these days.
Oh, so, yeah.
That was a good one.
Well, and also it was a victory, you know, like they didn't have to claim it, because while they may not have publicized it, the people who were there knew, you know, the people in that county, the people in that town, like gossip travels fast right. In the South, you know, and something that big, you know, people are working in like this particular area, and I gotta go get something to eat. Well, I'm gonna go over here, man. Oh, you can't go over there. They don't let you sit. No, you can go here. You know, type of a stuff.
Exactly.
So I think that was the victory, was that it could spread that way than necessarily being like, we need news coverage of this.
Yeah.
You know.
And here's an interesting thing though. The way that John Lewis frames the book is that he's going back to visit his hometown. He's going back to visit his old haunts. He goes through and he goes, oh, wow, a lot of the stores are gone that I remember protesting at, sitting at, having all those experiences, all these department stores, the grocery stores, picking whatever, like the different names he rattled off. And it made me think of the Alicia Garza memoir that I read, that is the first place where I read about the swimming pools and how integrating swimming pools was such a big battle, and that the white folks in areas where they were mandated to integrate, they cemented over the swimming pools rather than share them. And they would rather go without than, embrace it. And so I'm thinking, okay, so 50 years later, people went out of business, I think. And I'm like, is that related? Is that because we're in another cycle of like spiting the other side and not wanting them to win? Like that sort of thinking.
Some of it could be, but, and it's so funny. My father and I, we drove through a area here recently, and we kind of had a little bit of this conversation because like I live in Missouri. If anybody doesn't know, depends on who you ask. Some people are like, we were never racist. And then there's other people like, oh yeah. We were forced into the South during the Civil War. Were we?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, but one of the conversations that we were having is because of certain areas that my father clearly remembers as a kid, like, oh my God, I remember going over here to get sandwiches, or I remember my, uncle would take me here. My mom, this was the only place she shopped, type of a thing. And as we were talking about it, I think I asked him something like, how much of this is because of, economics and, the changes in cost of living and what have you, and how much of it is because once things were open to Black people and they could shop wherever they wanted to shop, they stopped shopping here. And he was like, a lot. Because it was this idea of, well, now I can shop here, it's cheaper, or they have better stuff. Yeah. And so then people started to go there, and some of these mom and pop places that had been thriving because this was the only place people in, our community could shop, couldn't compete, couldn't maintain, and then they ended up closing up.
Yeah.
And then we turned it on the other side, because then we're like, and now we're at this point where everybody wants it back, but instead of it being the same African American people that are now trying to build it up, now you have gentrification. And now it's different people who are coming in and wanting to build it up. And now the cost of living for it is so much higher, to live there or above these places and stuff like that, because they're lofts now, and like these all kinds of like specialty type of things and stuff like that it's completely different. And so it was an interesting conversation to be in.
Yeah. When you're talking about the only place to shop, do you recall if those were white-owned businesses or Black-owned businesses?
I didn't ask him that. Some of them I would pretty much hazard to guess were mostly Black-owned businesses, just because of the area that we were in.
Yeah.
But there might have been a few that were white-owned businesses as well. I didn't think to ask him that question, but I knew they were in areas where this was kind of like, because of redlining, this was kind of the only kind of areas that Black people could live in.
Or safely shop.
Feel safe safe. And, well, they lived like around those spaces. Right. And so like these were kind of the only areas that they were safe, that these were like where they were expected to stay, if you will, kind of a thing. And so these were like the only butcher you could really go to, type of thing. The only like my dad's mom worked in a clothing store pretty much the majority of her life in St. Louis, because she was from the South. But as far as I know, she worked in this clothing store for forever. And, my family is rather light-skinned. My grandmother was a lot lighter than I am. My father's a little bit lighter than me. And she was like in the back. Like that was her job, was, she pulled out the clothes and steamed them and hung them up. And I don't remember what happened, but somebody saw her and asked for her help or something like that. And she helped them. And the only reason she became a front salesperson was because this white woman was like, I want Marie to help me. And it pulled her out of the back. But like that's like and it was downtown St. Louis. So it was definitely like, this is where every Black person stays, in the back, type of something. And so it was a very rare thing for someone to be pulled out like that and, like be able to help. And even she like wouldn't have thought to shop in some of these other places. These were the places that you shopped at. These were the places that you could go, type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when it covers the move from the sit-ins to the boycott. So in Nashville downtown, there were, certain businesses that basically survived on Black business, but they were white owned. And so it was, it's sort of against their interest to promote this white supremacist, racist agenda. And yet that was the climate of the time. And so so then that makes me think of, Black Friday boycott. How did we do, everybody? Did anyone go to Target? Like with current US politics like they are. And I think, man, there's such power that's like the only power we have left is the economic voting, feels like sometimes. And so I'm just like, people need to take advantage of that. But
I will say, I don't think that I've gone to Target since last year. It's not even so much that I just, oh my God, I'm so boycotting everything they do. Like after a while, I just
anything there, right?
I just kind of forgot we were supposed to be boycotting it, and then it came up again. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm still doing it, yay!
Yeah, there you
go. Type of a thing. But I do think I sometimes wonder if how global we are right now cuts some of that, because there is like, on one hand, it's really great because people can get on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever and be like, Black Friday, we're boycotting. Don't spend your money here, for the weekend. Like, let's show them what our monies will do. Right. Because it was a whole list.
It's all diluted. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. And so it's like, here we go. But then, like how you mentioned, like they were like going to this specific restaurant and doing the sit-ins. Right? Or going to the specific building, doing the sit-ins, going to this lunch counter and doing this, going here and doing this. And it was so centralized. It was so specific that it was like, this person feels it. Not to say that Target as a whole can't feel it, but I do think it's a difference if you're going to this Target store or if you're going to this thing. Like boycotting first of all, half the people that sell on Amazon aren't even working for Amazon. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, I'm not sure that they feel it the same way as they did back then because of how global we are now as a world.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of global, we had a Mike come in, very interested in a legendary civil rights icon. Thank you for being here, Mike. And a Leslie, hello. And an Eva, hello. I was just saying, Eva and I are queens of putting it on early and then not getting the notification when it actually starts live. It's all good. It's all good. Zero shopping during the protest days. On one grocery run for milk and butter. Yay!
I shopped, but I shopped like small businesses, like on Etsy and a couple of other different places. So yeah.
Eva says, I attended 2 small business events yesterday that were moved from Small Business Saturday since we had a bit of a blizzard. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, we did.
I'm glad they got to postpone and have the event still. Yeah.
We woke up, I think it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and there was snow. I can't remember the last time that happened here. I think I was a kid.
Wow. But the climate's not changing. Yeah. Okay. Greg had a good question, and this is I'm not going to save it till the end. We'll just go with it as we go. So he asked, does Lewis discuss his thoughts about the Black Panthers? Yes. And actually, I read a book recently where Stokely Carmichael was a fictional character. It was Blackwater Rising by Attica Locke. It's my first Attica Locke, which is a mystery. And she said it in Texas. What's Houston area. And
I was really wanting to help you, and I was like, I don't know.
No. So it's on like the canals, and there's like bayous around. So I was like, are we in Louisiana? But no, it's like upriver from Houston or something close like that. and Stokely Carmichael, I think has like a bit of a cameo appearance in
Okay.
the protagonist's backstory, and it's very well done. So then I was surprised to see he also is in John Lewis's real life, and he shows up early. He's a striking figure. He's like this tall, cool dude who doesn't really fit in and doesn't really have the same goals. And then as you progress through time, it becomes very clearly marked that like people are going to use different tactics. And actually there's a really painful like um takeover of Snick, and Carmichael is part of that, and then people go off and get more militant and different things. So yeah, it's very sensitively handled in that John Lewis keeps with, this is what happened. I knew that was his personality. I wasn't surprised. I was sad that that's the way he chose, and I was sad when this person was shot, and like, you know, like all these, you know, different directions. He clings to his own pathway, and the fact that his nonviolent philosophy is what he wishes more people would embrace, but it sort of broke down past a certain point for Snick. So yeah,
I think he gives openness and he gives grace for people to make their own choices. And
much more quickly said.
No, I love how you said it, because you broke down why. I just think that he, and I don't know if it's a sense of he understands that this is his biography, and it's, you know, like he's telling his story, or if it's more that, to your point earlier about how you can't control, you know, how people are going to react. Yeah, and what their decisions are. And so I don't know if it's more that in that sense, or if it's just more, you know, this is what happened and this is the choice that they made, and, you know, God be with them, wish them the best. Type of it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had some other things that I was surprised to learn about, like in this book that we're talking about, Walking with the Wind. I never knew that there was an earlier attempt on MLK's life in Harlem, in New York City. He was attacked by a woman in line at a book signing and came close to death. I didn't realize there was an earlier, you know, you assume there's a lot of assassination attempts that were foiled, but like she actually stabbed him several times and he was close to death. I was like, what? And
I don't think that I knew he was that close to death.
1958. What? So that was interesting.
But I think that I think I remember my father mentioning it or hearing it on something that I was doing. And if I had to guess, it was probably, like, I studied Black history in college, and so it was probably in that class. Which, fun fact, study Black history in college when you go to school in Kansas. Guess what? Your teacher is not Black.
Oh my God.
But he was a great guy. Like, he was quite fun. A lot of, because I did Black history, Black literature, the history of Black literature, something else like that. And I think out of all of them, only one of my teachers was Black.
Wow.
But all of them were really great in their own right. So I don't know.
We had to break down affirmative action because,
you know, but also my French teacher wasn't French. Hey, go figure. She was actually Asian.
Okay. Nice.
We were a melting pot of craziness in Kansas. So, you know, like, I think that's the one I knew he was the closest to dying. I don't think I knew how close he was until this. But I want to say there was maybe 2 others where there was an attempt or something like that that I remember studying about. So yeah.
The other thing I didn't know, I knew there was a Million Man March, but that there was a second one, and that one on the war, the anti-war march didn't really come together. And so I was a little confused about the sequence of events. But in 1963, there was a Million Man March. And so I got to hear about, there was a whole like very drastic, tension-filled build-up to John Lewis's speech at the Million Man March. So he was already a name as the head of SNCC at that point, and so they had maybe a handful, like half a dozen Black leaders who were speaking at the march, and very respected, long time for 20 years leaders. And he got the note like the day before, after putting so much work into it, that his speech had like pissed someone off at the Catholic Church. And he's like, what? Like, it was really exciting to hear how that rolled out, how they changed it, what was at stake, and what he changed, and like how he felt about it. What did you think of that, like in terms of the context of the whole march and Lewis's role?
Okay, I didn't get to that part. I knew we were gonna hit something that I didn't get to.
Like, but I hadn't heard of A. Philip Randolph, but he's like a labor hero.
Oh no, him I'd heard of. Yeah, him I'd heard of.
Yeah, like is it the Railway Workers Union or something like that? And he'd been an instrumental labor rights figure.
Railway, or is it Porter? It's one of those. I did know that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because fun fact, my great aunt, her husband worked for the railroad. So nice. I knew some names in that respect. Yeah, he actually lost his hand apparently working for the railroads.
Wow.
But when you're talking about that there was a second Million Man March, are you talking about the other one that happened in the 90s?
Maybe that's why I got it confused, because that came up on quizzes and stuff.
Okay. My father went to that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Didn't go to any of the other, political things when he was like, younger in the civil rights movement. But no, he went to that one, and it was more.
Is that with Jesse Jackson?
Yeah, Jesse Jackson was there.
Leading it, or I don't remember.
I don't remember who was leading it. I feel like it was Farrakhan, but I could be wrong. All I know is it was very weird. All of us were here. And it wasn't this house that we were in. We were actually in a different home. And he was downstairs in his office, and then all of a sudden he came up and he was like, "Get on the bus." And we were like, "What bus? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "They said that we need to be in Washington. We got to go. I'm going." And we were like, "Going where?" And next thing we knew, we were dropping him off at the airport. And I want to say it wasn't even like a week in advance. Like, he just like called into his job. He found some people to switch shifts with. Wow. He went and found a plane ticket. We were dropping him off at the airport, and he went. So I actually have a Million Man March t-shirt that he brought me home.
That's cool. Did he share like what it was like, what the atmosphere was like, or like?
Oh yeah, he has a whole like we had whole conversations about it and everything else. And his then girlfriend at the time, she was like, "I saw your father on TV," and I was like, "No, you didn't." It was like 17,000 people, because my father generally wears a baseball hat, and I'm like, half of which have baseball hats on. Yeah. No, you did not see him in the crowd of 18,000 people. Like, absolutely not. But yeah, no, he was just like, "I've got to go." And I think he was there maybe a day and a half, 2 days, and then he came home. And yeah, but he said it was an experience that he's very glad that he had. Like I said, there was lots of conversations, but I was a teenager at the time, so you're only halfway paying attention to what your father's saying. And yeah, and but he was glad that he went. There was a lot of like a lot of speakers, a lot of people, all of it. And so yeah, he just got up and was like, "We have to get on the bus."
That's so funny.
Okay. Didn't take a bus, but sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Million Man March. Oh, okay. Big tent. So if you're outside of American politics, you may not be familiar, so I'll just sketch it out. The phrase "a big tent" is often what Democrats use to describe the fact that they were a coalition of many different interests, including different ethnic identities. And, there's labor, and there's women's lib, and there's, different special interests, if you want to call them that, which is sort of a suspect designation at this point, but we'll just call it that. And, they're trying to have a big tent to include everyone and advocate for rights of all these small special interests against monopolists, etc. And so I was looking at one part where chapter 13, he's talking about SNCC associating with the Radical Guild of Lawyers. So there was an attempt where he said is really the turning point of the civil rights movement, which I thought was interesting because I had never heard of this before. So they chose Mississippi to do a lot of advocacy on voter registration. So they had the sit-ins, they had the marches, and then they had the voter registration in Mississippi, which was about proving, again, to the outside world that there's no way these people would be elected, these white folks, if these people actually had a chance to vote. And the way they did that is by holding parallel elections and sending another party's candidates, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party or something like that, instead of the regular Democratic Party. And then once they got to the National Democratic Convention, it was like, well, they should be seated because they have also been elected, and this should bring out the inequality and, you know, the stopping of voting rights. And they didn't seat them. And this was sort of like, everyone was like, what are you doing? And they were shuffled off the stage, and they weren't allowed to speak. And it's kind of like, well, these are the people who are supposed to be supporting us. And it was a huge letdown. And he's saying that was sort of the turning point where they did everything right. They did everything through the system, and it just fell flat. And so he felt some of the people really sour on that experience. And I thought, wow, interesting lessons for today. And what do you think about that turning away from the rules and the system to a different method? Like, he's already using civil disobedience, but within the system. And then after that, it's kind of like, well, what else do we need to do to get people's attention? And how do we work with people that don't agree with us, but don't even recognize us as like equal? What do you think?
So there's a quote. I'm going to mess it completely and utterly up, just so you know. I feel like it's one about Edison or something to that effect. But it's like it took, 140 attempts before he was able to create the light bulb.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he failed 140 times. It was that he learned 140 ways not to.
Right.
And so I think that sometimes, and especially in the society of like instant gratification, and, you know, we can, oh, I want to watch this. Here, you can just turn it on and find it. Or, you know, like, I want this. You can order it. It's there in 2 days, sometimes a little bit less, you know, type of a conversation in this time frame where we're used to this idea of want it, get it, got it now type of thing. Sometimes we forget that you don't get it on that first try, that you have to keep doing it. And just because the first time doesn't work, the second time can, or the third time can, or the fourth time can. And sometimes it's small tweaks. Sometimes it's little things. Sometimes it's just staying the course. And you get, I mean, in that situation, you're up against so much, you know, of like mental mindset and rules and history of like institutional insanity type of a thing. That, okay, so we don't get it. I can get being upset, and I can get being like, but we did all the right things, like, you know, type of a thing. Like, it's supposed to work out because that's what happens. You know, you do the good things, you do the right things, and you should get the right result.
Right.
And sometimes you have to be like, okay, didn't get it. That sucks. Let's take a beat, regroup. Right.
Take a step back.
Go at it again.
Yeah. I think one of the main things was like shifting alliances, because it was like they need to figure out who was telling people what to do, whether it was in the White House, whether it was one of the Kennedys, whether it was, you know, the Attorney General, like who was pressing the buttons or who was not doing what they said they would do.
And that's the tweak. Okay, so we tweak it here and we figure out who's not doing what they're supposed to do. We do it again. Maybe we get the same type of result. Okay, so let's tweak again. You know, maybe it's not that person that's not doing it. Maybe it's this person. Maybe we're not approaching it right. Let's tweak again. But you don't stop. You just have to keep going. And I think that's one of the beautiful messages of this book is, and I have this conversation with people so often in my culture, is this idea of, you know, like they want to be so mad about where we are right now. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, we stopped. Like there's a space there. And I get why, you know, they were tired. Right. They did so much. They were tired. Like by the time you get to the Civil Rights Act, they are tired. You know, they have done so much. They have lost so many people. They have fought so many things. And I even get why their children were like, dude, I saw dad. Like, I don't have time for that, you know, type of a thing. But then someone else needed to pick up. Someone else needed to keep moving forward. The civil rights movement was never supposed, or the act was never supposed to be the end all be all.
Right.
It was like, you have to keep
or
moving.
the Voting Rights Act, which is currently
right, you know. And
right,
so I think that that's the thing, is like, you have to, there should always be forward movement, if for no other reason, you know, like we were talking about climate change earlier. Okay, so let's say we get this amazing, perfect climate change act in place, you know, God willing, fingers crossed, all the great stuff that stops the progression of what it is that we have done so far. The climate doesn't stop changing.
It's called overshoot. Yeah, it's called overshoot. But here's another aspect of the phenomenon you're describing, is that everyone that John Lewis and his organization and partner organizations invested with energy and inspiration and faith that this would be the way to go. How do you fall down from that and then keep the trust that those people placed in you? Because I think in a lot of the books that I've read, it's like, you know, if you've put all that energy and then it doesn't work, you're kind of like, I don't have any more. Like, I don't trust you. I don't trust the system. It's never going to work. Like, I got to just look to my own affairs. And you're like, how does John Lewis as a person rest, take a step back, but then come back with something that people can believe in again? I think that's like the real miracle, is like, how do you do that with the community? How do you get that trust? And I think it's really just invested in you and how you act. Yeah.
It's a testament to the men that, and women for that matter, that were involved in this.
Right.
Because again, they were wearing their heart. And
Fannie Lou Hamer. Like, I've heard that name forever, but I didn't know where to place her. And it was just like, she was there. Like,
you know, and it's like, they're wearing everything on their sleeve. And I think also, on some respect, it's easier to lose faith and be like, I have nothing else to give, when someone fails and you're like, yeah, you failed, dude. Like, I'm sorry. You know, maybe we try something different. I think it's a little harder to walk away when you see them fail and they get back up and do it again. But not only do they get back up and do it again, they get beaten for getting up and doing it again.
Right.
And then they still don't walk away. They get back up and do it again. It's a little bit harder to be like, oh, well, yeah, I got nothing I can give, when it's like, you're getting hit in the back of the head, you know, type of a thing.
Yeah. The beatings that were described, not in graphic, gory detail, but definitely like, oh yeah, look at this picture. I've got a big bandage on my head because I got a concussion and refused to go to the hospital and spoke to someone at the church that night. Yeah. It was pretty incredible. Mike says, a quote from Nelson Mandela. Mike is from South Africa, so he's got all the South African line. Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again.
Yeah.
Which, I guess what you're saying is, in some respects, that's a testament to willpower. But in some respects, if you're leading a community and doing that, you've got to show them that you've got something else to bring to the fight, you know, like to pivot and adapt.
And I think some of the difference, and again, I wasn't there, so I don't know what the conversations, and I'm pretty sure there were other conversations that he did not write about that, you know, were private, like private for sure. Yeah. But I think setting that expectation, like, if you went into the civil rights movement after 300 years of America being racist, like, and you thought the first attempt we were gonna be like, okay, we're great, like, come on, you know. So I think it's
read a little history,
right? It's like setting the expectation up, you know, like, it's kind of the same respect. Like, you thought we were gonna stop shopping at Target on, you know, like one weekend, and they were gonna be like, oh my God, we gotta change everything. Come on.
They tried. They
changed quite a bit, but I'm just saying, like, if you I say this all the time. I'm like, crack a book. Just somebody please crack a book. Like, whenever I'm watching things, I'm just like, there's so many times that I'm watching the news or something. I'm like, crack a book, somebody, please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like the history of any movement, not even just civil rights movement, but just any movement, whether it's the suffragettes, whether it is not even just in America, it changes in South Africa, changes in Europe, any movement, the French Revolution, it was not something where it was like someone held a sign, someone sat in, somebody marched, somebody gave a great speech, and everything changed. You know, it's a continual battle to get to that point.
Yeah. I'm processing that. I had a thought and it flew away. That's fine. We're gonna keep going. I hope you're okay to keep going because I know we hit an hour, but let's see.
I always put in 2 hours in my schedule for any type of live stream I do.
Okay, good. Okay, here's something that I found really relatable. Page 390. Ooh, 392.
Okay, first of all, why is it, and again, to my Southern Baptist roots, every time you say a page number, I feel like maybe because he's a minister or I was in church, I'm like, 392. Okay.
Yeah. Verse 7.
Right.
So this is the very end of the Bloody Sunday chapter. And I can't remember the order exactly. There's a lot that happens in this, in the the movement, the 60s. It's after Selma, but it's called Bloody Sunday. Oh, I know. He calls this chapter Bloody Sunday because it's when he's sort of outed in SNCC and the voting thing. So he's been chairman for several important years.
Wow.
And he comes back from the trip to Africa with a dozen of the leaders after the elector defeat at the Democratic Convention, just like laid everyone down. What word am I looking for? Made everyone depressed. They needed a break. And so someone gave them money and they took a tour to Africa to go through several different countries, meet with people who were there, discuss different strategies for civil rights in those countries, which are very different. And, you know, he just got a feel for, being in a majority Black culture, that's a totally different feeling. Just relaxing from the American scene. He comes back and he's voted out of SNCC because a couple of people want the power of the role, which isn't the point of the organization.
No.
But he sort of takes a beat and goes, okay, well, I'm not going to fight for this. The whole point of this is that the people need to speak and their voice be heard. So I need to find something else where I'm wanted. And so he gets called by someone to do a job up in New York City at the Field Foundation, which is sort of connected to his work and he'd be good at it. As I rode the train up from Atlanta, I felt more lonesome than I had ever felt in my life. I had lived a lifetime in the past 6 years, and now the rest of my life lay ahead of me without a map, without a blueprint. All I kept thinking was, where am I going? And why? Why? In italics. So I was like, oh man, that's such a relatable feeling. That sort of adrift and like, you're still guided by the starlight of your own conscience, but like, people just voted to cut you off. Like where, you know, you're drifting. And like that feeling is, I think, pretty universal to anyone who's tried to be in an activist position or be part of a nonprofit with a mission. It's just like, oh, yeah.
But even past that, and again, in the sense of, because I know we've repeatedly said it, just the relatability of his writing in this book, just anybody who's ever tried to make a change in their life.
Right.
You know, like you could just, you've been in that position. Like you want to go away to college and your family's like, why would you go away to college? You know, you decide to. There's a sense of being alone, you know, or you decide to take a job somewhere, you know, you don't have family. There's a sense of being alone or you don't have friends or whatever. And so it's a great way to bring people in. And again, just be like, you can relate to this. Like you didn't have to have set in, you know, or gone through the violence and the different things that he went through. You can still just relate to just a sense of who he is.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. And that's, again, I'm telling you, these people wear their heart on their sleeve.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I just had this conversation with somebody, and this is totally unrelated, but it kind of is.
Okay.
This year I've fallen into this rabbit hole of watching like people react to TVs and movies.
Oh, okay.
And I'm having so much fun. There's these two guys, got to be in their 20s, maybe late 20s, middle 30s, somewhere in there. They're both married. They both have kids. And it's so fun watching them watch some of these movies. And, you know, like you have this idea that guys are supposed to be like, that's a chick flick, you know, or that's this or that's that. These guys will be sitting here crying at a chick flick movie. And it's just so beautiful that I've learned, I think recently through watching this, is that some of the people that you think of as maybe would be the most stoic or whatever, that heart's just completely on their sleeve, just open for them. And I feel like that's how a lot of the people who are in the civil rights movement led, is like they led heart first.
Yeah.
Of, you know,
well, especially that first group when it was planned. Like they had a strategy, they had the practice sessions, they had the philosophical underpinnings, they had the teachings of Gandhi. Like they had all these discussions about what the best way would be and where would they hit and what was important and what was the priority. And they, you know, practiced getting beat up and spit on and all this kind of stuff in order to be ready for the humiliation so that they could further their cause. And I think once it was getting enough headlines that it was making headway, that's when other people started coming in without the training, wanting to help and do good, and then just not having the background to be able to be a self-guided participant in the sort of front lines. And that's when you start to get a little shaky on your foundations because you're top heavy with people who don't know what they're doing. But I think that's sort of like the course of movements, is to run the course of like small, dedicated, knowledgeable folks. And then as they expand and have more power, then you're gathering people who aren't as dedicated, knowledgeable, and you know, so it gets
which is
hard.
It's so, and maybe I grew up differently. Because I wouldn't join a group. Because I'm trying to think of a group that I probably wouldn't join. I'm not sure I can think of one. But I probably wouldn't join a group that it's like I wasn't passionate about.
Yeah.
That I wasn't like, I see your cause. Like that I wasn't like, yes, this is important. Like this is what we need to be working towards. This is, you know, like, yeah, let's go, you know, type of a thing. Just because I was like, oh, well, this is a stepping stone to like political gain. Or this is a stepping stone to like financial stability. Or as some women did, this is a stepping stone to finding a man. You know, type of a thing. I wouldn't do that. So I can't relate to people who, again, are coming into like movements, especially something like the civil rights. Like, what part of you is sitting at home watching TV or listening to the radio, you know, because at that time, not every household had a TV, you know, and are listening to these people who are being degraded and hauled off to jail, and like seeing like water hoses that are knocking kids down the street because they're so strong. And, you know, like burning of churches with little baby girls in them. And you're like, see, I'm going to join that because I think that I can get into politics by being part of that. Like,
weird.
Dude.
It's a weird response. No, I'm
your malfunction.
I'm thinking more of the people who thought, wow, that's such a great cause, but not knowing about it. They came down and then they have those instinctual responses of wanting to fight back instead of standing
and there
around
are those
to get
people,
voter registration. It was like, oh, if someone hits me, I'm going to hit them back. Or, you know, calling or coming. Even what he was describing was they wouldn't dress right. They wouldn't dress up. They would have peacenik kind of clothes and long hair, and women wouldn't wear bras. He said, no, if you're going to join us, you're going to wear a bra. Like we don't want any excuse for people to criticize us other than the one that we're protesting, which is the color of our skin being the dividing factor. And I thought that was smart, but it's also limiting because you have people who want to help. Like, what do you do with them? What do you do with that energy? How do you, you know, leash it and benefit from it?
As you're saying it like that, I'm reminded of, have you ever seen the movie Remember the Titans?
No. Is it a football movie?
God, you have to see it. Yeah, it's a football movie, but it's more about, like, it's actually a true story. And it's based on this Black coach who was brought in for this white team in, it could also be Alabama. It's some southern town. Denzel Washington plays it, of course, beautifully.
I know that it's Denzel, yeah.
Type of a thing. But one of the big things is, you know, it's an integrated school. They're not really happy about the fact it's integrated. You know, shocker. Yes, please watch it. And kind of the Black kids that are coming to the school, they're like, okay, we got a coach now. He gonna let us play. He gonna do this. He gonna do that. You know, we can do this. We can do that. Like, they're thinking it's like kind of a come as you are, get to do what you want to do type of thing.
Permission slip, yeah.
Yeah. And Denzel Washington very quickly is like, no, you will show up. You will wear a 3-piece suit. If you do not own a 3-piece suit, talk to me. We will get you a 3-piece suit. Wow. You know, like, there's a guy who comes in who is white, who has long hair and everything else, and he wants to play. And he's like, you're going to cut your hair. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. If this is how you want to play, this is what it is. And he somewhat explains it, but he doesn't completely. But the idea is that we're not going to show up looking like the other teams expect us to show up. Like, they expect us to show up being rowdy. They expect us to show up not dressed correctly. They expect us to do this, to do that, whatever. We're going to show them we're here to play football, and this is what we're here to do. And we can conduct ourselves in the correct way. And so I sometimes question if maybe that might have helped in the civil rights movement. Like, you want people who have the heart and they want to be there and they want to help and they want to do that. And that's an amazing thing. But just like they had to go through training to do it, maybe there needed to also be somebody who'd be like, we want you to be part of us, but we want to make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting into. Right. So you also have to go through training.
Yeah. And the problem is it's just so fast. Like, you don't want to say no to people, but you also are endangering others because of the lack of training and understanding. So it's hard. Yeah.
It's like work.
Okay. All right.
Everybody goes through training for work. It's like work.
We've got MLK's, what he considered his finest speech was the one where he said, if you're spending more on your military budget than your welfare programs, your nation is going through a spiritual death. He thought that was his best speech.
How can we say it again for the people who couldn't even afford the seats in the back?
Page 462, he talks about the cornerstone of American ethos. And I'm not sure exactly the meaning of that word other than like the concept or idea of American democracy. Yeah. But the fact that we're all on an equal footing and we shouldn't be getting different deals. We should be taken and judged by like how well we do, the effort we put forward, our talents, etc. And I'm like, how can he believe this? Obviously, he knows it's not true in some arenas, but he still believes that this is the American idea. So what do you think about people who are in activist spaces who have to juggle, like, this is how it should be, and this is where we are, and like, where is America? How do we form a vision of where we all should be, or do we try to like reform where we are now? Is it because he's trying to include everyone that he uses that? What do you think of activism?
So I think of it kind of like, and again, I'm going to use a sports metaphor. I'm not this big of a sports person. I promise I'm not, except for that I kind of am. But
are they all over your fiction, your romance?
No, this is actually, it's I'm a bigger basketball fan than I am a football fan. Okay. And so actually I'm a really huge basketball fan actually. But there was like, you know, during the finals, you always have like the 7-game series, right? And so there was one team, I feel like it was it was somebody that I was really heavily into, but they were like down, what was it, like 3-1 or something like that. So it's like if the team won the next game, they won the championship. Okay. And they ended up winning, and so now it's like 3-2. And like one of the guys in the commentators was like, he had played for a team that was like that. And he's like, in order to, because they were talking about, can a team that's down 3-1 come back and, you know, ultimately win a championship? And he said something about how there's a sense of delusional optimism that you have to have in order to win, because you have to believe you could do it, number one, but then you have to also have the fortitude to take it one game at a time and not get ahead of yourself. And I think that for them, there had to have been that space, you know, of that delusional optimism of, yes, you know, we have read the Constitution. We remember Abraham Lincoln's speech. You know, we know the platitudes of America. You know, this is what we are supposed to be. All men are created equal. We all have the same liberties and opportunities. The reality of that, maybe not so much, but this is the aspiration that even our forefathers aspired to. So this is our delusional optimism, is that this is where we're going to get here. Our reality
is going to take you there, right? That's the engine to get you there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that was kind of the thing where he could still say America is for all men, you know, like we're all created equal. We're all guaranteed these certain inalienable rights. Because if you don't, on some level, either have that optimism or that belief, then what are you fighting for? And so I think
what are you in Congress for?
Right. And so I think that that's part of it, is that kind of optimism, that delusion, that whatever. It's like, here's the big picture. Here's game 3. Let's win.
Yeah.
We win game 3, let's get to game 4. You know, type of a thing. And so, yeah, I think that that's where that came from a little bit more so than just being like, history tells me I'm lying to myself, but hey, I'm gonna keep lying.
Yeah. This is where I look at Congress and I think you don't get to be on the board of directors of a company if you don't believe in the mission. But all of the cynical people who are in there, in the majority right now, like, what are they doing? Like, what?
Well, see, to me right now, I feel like, to use your metaphor, the people that are there are cherry picking which parts they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very easy to be like,
land of opportunity.
I was brought up in the church, you know, like I've read the Bible, I've gone to Christian school, everything else. I can cherry pick which rules out of the Bible that I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. We'll do that one. Yeah, let's do this one. This one I'm going to judge that you for not doing, you know, type of a thing. And so often in churches, let's be real, this is a lot of what happens, you know, and I think that it's the same conversation for the people in Congress right now, is that a lot of them are like, I like this part of the Constitution and I like this part, and I'm going to use this part to prove why I shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And it's troubling that so many of these enable different arguments. I mean, because we have free speech, and yeah, it's hard to sort of reconcile that you're allowed to say these things even though they completely go against the mission.
Look, I've always stood by the statement that you can say any dumb thing you want to say as long as you are prepared for the consequences.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched it yet, but I have on my watch later list from today, Francesca Ramsey's. It's got a leopard in the thumbnail, and it's got Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm like excited to watch it.
Yeah, if there's one person I would be like, you can say any dumb thing you want to say. Who was I? I was talking to somebody who you know as well, but I don't want to say who they are. But we were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they were like, what is this world that all of a sudden she's got me agreeing with her?
Right. That's the weird thing. She comes back into normal sphere and you're like, wait, who are you? Yeah.
Right. She's like, I don't know. Did the world turn upside down? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And so,
so just wrapping up, I guess, the life that is in the book, which is just as far as his beginning congressional term. John Lewis has a great scene where he's talking about the triumphal moment of victory for his first campaign for Congress, because So they were definite underdogs. There were some famous other civil rights movement names that he actually competed against friends and lost good friends in the run in Georgia. And he just did a very good campaign, was himself, you know, got down and dirty when he needed to, and he won. And the night that he won, someone who was on the campaign had a connection and brought over a limo, and he's like, I really appreciate that, but I think we gotta walk. Like, we from our headquarters to the party at the hotel, like I think me is walking at this moment of victory. And I was just like, oh, chef's kiss, so perfect. So that was a really great moment.
Well, you have to understand yourself, and you have to know yourself. And I think he won everything by walking, by marching, walking with the wind. You know, like everything in his life was kind of, that was the motto of like, let's just keep walking. Let's just keep pacing around that doggone basement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Another biographer, and I think used the quote from someone else in the media who called John Lewis the conscience of Congress. And I thought, I think I've probably heard that when I was growing up and he was still alive. And then I thought, interesting. I don't know that we have one of those today. No. What do you think about that? Or as a role, like investing someone with that power or that role? Do you think it absolved other people from having to be as authentic? Do you think that was a good idea? Do you think it was like,
I mean, I think it was a good idea because you need somebody, to go back to that other idea, you need somebody who's that aspiration. You know what I mean?
True.
Like you need somebody like that. That was one of the good things. And I don't know, I can't speak to every family, but for my family, one of the great things was my great grandmother, because she was such a force. No one ever wanted to disappoint her. You know, and it was that conversation. Like you could say a lot of stuff to her. She'd tell you a lot of stuff. Lord help us. You know, and like she had lived this crazy life, been married, we're still not sure how many times. You know, like she had stories upon stories upon stories of lots of different things. But you'd almost rather her spank you than tell you she was disappointed in you.
Right.
Like just that idea. So you almost need someone who is that conscious, you know, in your world, in your life, in your sphere, whether it's like someone in your job or someone, you know, in your family or your friend group or whatever, that even if it's, you don't want to disappoint them, you don't want to hurt them in some way, or you don't want them to feel as though you've let them down in some kind of sense of capacity. And so I think having someone there, especially someone like a John Lewis, who has such a life history of like, not just, you know, being part of a movement, but being on the front lines of the movement, of furthering the movement, of doing so much, you know, boots on the ground type of conversation. Yeah, you're like, okay, you know, when he speaks, people shut up type of a thing. And you kind of need that. And it's something I do believe we are missing in Congress, but not even just in Congress. I think just in our whole political sphere right now is someone even in some of our communities, just someone, you know, who is that person who, when they speak, you shut up and listen, you know, like you respect them enough that, and you hold them in that type of esteem that it's like, this person, you know, is on the right side of history. You know, this person, you know, is on the right side of the debate type of a thing. And even when they're not, you know, he always struck me as someone, and I think I remember there was something that he did vote for that afterwards he was like, that might not have been the best idea. You know, so someone who
is that going to happen in politics? People admitting that their mind has changed? Like,
right, you know, and so you kind of need someone who is going to toe that line of being able to not just do that one, but also admit when they're wrong. And I do think that is something that we are missing in Congress.
Rare, exactly. So yeah,
it is a rarity for sure.
You frame it in a good way, which is that I think that the conscience of Congress, meaning as a senior statesman, he was definitely someone that people would shut up and listen to as younger in their careers would probably look to, but also just as a person for the general public, someone who had witnessed such courage in himself and others, who had been through such hard ordeals and won and lost and knew the cost. Like that's to be valued. And so, yeah, more people like that would be welcome.
Especially because, and I think that's part of why you sit down and you shut up and listen. Like I said, my great grandmother had plenty of stories that she could tell you. So you got a sense of been there, done that, kind of a thing. Like they have that life history that's important, that it's like they're giving you lessons from wisdom, hard-earned wisdom, hard-fought wisdom.
Right.
And again, when he spoke, you felt that, you sensed it, you understood it. And I don't, because I'm really trying to think of somebody that's there, and I can't. And what really troubles me more so is because when you get to where we are now, there are a number of people that I wouldn't necessarily say were his contemporaries, but were in a certain class, whether through age, experience, whatever it is. We're losing them really fast.
Yeah.
And so it does trouble me, because if we can't come up with somebody, even if they're not the conscience of Congress, but someone who has that kind of heart, kind of understanding.
Kamala Harris. Hello.
Who has that type of of something, you know what I mean? Like I can't think of quite exactly what it is, but who has that can put. I'm really nervous for where things could go.
Yeah.
Because you kind of need that in some respect. And again, the older statesmen, the elder stateswomen's, they're stepping down, or, unfortunately they're passing on. And, what are we going to do?
Well, some of them we can be thankful that they're passing on.
And again, like there are some people that you're like, at this point, you've been there long enough.
I watched a Late Show recently where they did a small segment on people calling in to comment on Dick Cheney's passing, and it was pretty hilarious because no one had a nice thing to say. Like, yeah, sometimes
what's really funny is, I mean, and it's nothing against him, and actually I don't even think about it. I thought of it in the sense of him or his life or whatever. I just remember when that popped up, my father and I's whole conversation, because I am such a history nut. I was like, have we ever had a sitting or even a former vice president that's passed away like this soon? Like, what have we done? What are the state what are the protocols for this? Like, what do we do? I was like, I know what we do. It's like past president that passes away, but I'm trying to think, has there been a past vice president that's passed away while I've been alive? Like, that was our whole conversation, was trying to figure out a vice president who had passed away during my life.
George H.W. Bush was a vice president before he was president.
Right. Like, we got to that one, and we were trying to think of who else. My father was trying to remember.
I can't remember Jimmy
all
Carter's
I remember was Carter's vice president.
Who was that?
I don't remember the name because he just said Carter's vice president.
Okay. Yeah.
And we had that conversation, and we were like, and he was like, but then again, I don't know if you were old enough to remember when he died. And then he goes, wait, he did die, didn't he? Did he die? I don't know.
I don't know.
And so that became our conversation around Dick Cheney. That was it.
I really like this guy. He's an elder statesman. Robert Reich is in the media right now trying to do what he can against inequality. So I like his contributions in terms of authentic and a conscience, and just trying to be there, say the things that people need to hear. So
thank you for giving us the name Walter Mondale. That was
thank you, Greg. I do remember that name. I don't remember when he died. I think that was before.
I don't either, but once you said the name, I definitely remembered that. So yeah,
I remember that. It's part of the election.
My father has a thing about Carter. It's very interesting. I think that might be the first president that he kind of remembers. Oh yeah. I think that might be the first one. He did die. Okay. Because he always, like, whenever we start talking about like different presidencies and different things, that's kind of the one that he goes back to is Carter.
His age, his era.
I guess. I'm like, I don't remember Carter.
Mad World, hey Lynn. So they were talking about, I think we were talking about the Titans, Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam advocated presenting yourself with pride in suits, not drinking, etc. So I think that's getting to like the self-respect that you need, kind of like the community engagement piece that we talked about, which is that you need to find the strength and the faith in yourself before you go out and have people trust you with their own beliefs and lives on the line. Yeah. And then if we only engage with people with whom we agree completely, we live in an echo chamber. True. Absolutely. It's part of how we've gotten to where we are.
Like, that's one of the things that I would love people to explain to me, because I don't understand it. And again, maybe it's my background of what have you. You know, I don't get it.
Yeah, what? Get why people are involved?
I don't get this.
Like the epidemic of loneliness?
Well, no, I get that part. But like, I don't get the idea of just wanting to be around people who completely agree with you. And not even so much that, like, of course, we all want to feel like we're right, and you know, we have the best opinion, and our opinions are important for sure. But I kind of like to be challenged a little bit, because I think it helps you grow.
Right.
And I also, you know, I was, I guess, very fortunate. I went to a predominantly white school as an elementary student. But then I spent most of my summers and off times at my grandmother's, which was in still a very predominantly Black area. And so I had both sides, but both, I think, gave me different things.
Yeah.
And so I, like, to me, I don't, like, I love when I get to find out new stuff about new people and new cultures. Like, I'll go out of my way to look up stuff, you know, about new people and new cultures. And so I don't get the idea that you just want to be surrounded by everybody who's exactly like you and who thinks exactly like you and who was brought up exactly like, aren't you bored?
I think it might come down to not wanting to be criticized. I think some people who want to be in agreement as scenarios, it might be because they feel safer there. And whether that's bodily safety, because it's a like values driven uniformity is one thing, but if it's like not wanting to be criticized or humiliated or embarrassed or that kind of thing, that just means you didn't have people challenging you when you grew up, because you get a bit of a, oh, okay, I learned a new thing and I incorporate it and I sort of thank my teachers, you know, like that. That attitude is perhaps not present.
I guess I'd be bored.
Yeah. Well, boredom, we need a whole nother live stream on boredom, because I have a lot of opinions about people. Hi, JC.
Hi, JC.
Yeah, you can't learn. Exactly.
You know, one of the things that I was actually talking to some of our other friends, Barrett and Morgan, about, we were a little bit talking about the idea of, you know, everybody being the same, or this idea of limiting. I think we were actually talking about why certain sets of people scare other sets of people so bad. Okay. And one of the things that I was talking about is, like, you know, Morgan works with, I don't know exactly how she would describe it, but like people who have ADHD and, you know, different types of mental challenges or whatever. And my cousin a few years ago, like, met a woman. They fell in love. They actually just got married this year. Her oldest son is nonverbal autistic. And every year we do family pictures. I would have had no idea how to work with him if I had never met Morgan and then didn't learn from her experience. So, like, I don't understand why you wouldn't want that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. What's wrong? Yeah.
like I just like those are the things that I guess why it doesn't make sense to me is because I don't see how your life isn't enhanced by meeting people who are different than you.
Yeah, I like it. I like Booktube for that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mike was saying, yeah, need to get out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn says the leaders who were most dangerous to ruling elites were the ones who could reach across divides, ideological and otherwise.
It's very true.
People who could communicate and show that our needs and desires align in some way across divides. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
JC is talking about a saying, if you are the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room to be in. I don't know who said it, but I love that. Yeah.
I actually just heard, and I don't know if it's a paraphrase of that, but they asked Selena Gomez, what's the best advice Taylor Swift gave her? And it was something almost exactly similar to that.
Really?
If you're this person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
So that's why when she said that, I was like,
interesting.
Huh. But yeah, I do agree with that. If you're the smartest person in the room, or I would even say if you look like everybody else in the room, act like everybody else in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Go find some more rooms. Go open some more doors.
Right.
Invite some new people in.
I like that. I had a link. I had a segue for this, and now that we've drifted, I do not. But here we go. Here's Tiffany's latest romance release, which I am currently reading. So, fellow TL Russ is a romance writer, and if you have someone in your life who would enjoy ebook romance, she's got tons of backlist titles, and they're like in nice little series, so like 4 or 5 titles in each one. So if you like a little small town romance, you can pick your flavor. It's very nice. And Greg's response: cowboy romance for the win. He reads cowboy
Thank
poetry.
you very much.
So that's
romance is always
check it out. Exactly. And then the plug I was going to do is that when we've been talking about political activism and stuff like that, I did a whole month of books about activism called Agitation August. And what's interesting, when I went through this book, I had, as I said, several notes on nonviolence. The last book that I discussed with a fellow booktuber was We Refuse. And basically that's Black people saying we refuse to, be in the box that you've put us in. And the author outlines, I think, 6 or 8 different strategies that they use to advocate to raise consciousness as a community. And one of them is not nonviolence. It's like you have to have all the tools in your toolkit. And it was a very convincing argument about you can't just take it all the time. And here's when you have to work outside the system and all that kind of stuff. And I thought she was really powerful. So we had a great discussion about that.
I've always looked at the idea of nonviolence in the protester and whatever. And I feel like I'd probably be closer to John Lewis on this one. And this is how I've looked at everything. And I'm going to blame it on my older cousin. Is I don't ever want to look like the wrong person.
What do you mean?
Like my cousin always was like, so there was this moment one time where she got in trouble with her parents and she ended up getting a spanking because we are from that generation.
Yeah.
And she refused to cry because she said her parents always told her if you try, then you won't be in trouble. And she felt like she tried her best and she should not have been in trouble. So it's always been, she was like, so they look like the wrong party and I look like I'm okay. I did what was right.
Right. Morally right. Okay.
So I kind of always take that respect to it. Is like, if you're fighting me and I'm fighting you, and someone shows up and they want to be on the right side.
Yeah.
How do they know which one's the right side? Because we're both over here, exchanging punches and everything else. How do you know which person to pick? Right. And I want to be clear that, pick me.
Gotcha.
I'm right. Pick me.
But I guess when I was thinking about it, when I was thinking about drawing the line and everyone being in the big tent, what I was meditating on was like, people will tell you you can't do something because it's illegal, and it'll be like an economic boycott because, you know, you're limiting the opportunities of all these people to earn money. And I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me. These people are driving up the price for medicine, and people's lives are ending because they're rationing their dosage. Like, there is one side of this that is much more immediate harm. And I think the system is on the wrong side of being wrong. You know, like, as you were saying, it's clear to me which side is on the wrong. And, you know, acting out to protest to, you know, I don't know.
Well, but also, we were just having this conversation about the idea, it was like payment structures or something like that, because I was saying, how are we like 30 years removed from Michael Douglas's greed is good speech in Wall Street, and yet it feels like everybody's taking that to heart. You know,
what movie is this?
Wall Street. You've never seen Wall Street?
I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh, it was like, I don't remember it, but it was apparently the big movie, I feel like in the 80s or something like that. Okay. It was Michael Douglas, and he was supposed to be like was he like a hedge fund manager or something? I can't quite remember. The
equivalent of the time.
But yeah, he was supposed to be like, you know, this big dude, and he does this whole speech about how greed is good, you know, like how we should want money and want things. And
irony, people, irony, learn what it is.
And so we were just having this conversation about, because we were talking about kind of the small businesses and what have you of our day and age. And like, I'm okay. I understand the idea of like the protests, right? Like the boycotts and the protests and, you know, the money talks. And I do agree with that. And I get the argument too that, you know, these corporations aren't going to, like, the workers are the people that are going to feel the burden of whatever happens, more so than the CEOs or whatever. And it's like, for me, it's the same reason why that idea of, people have always talked about this trickle-down economics doesn't work, because it's like the people who benefit are never going to put the money where it needs to trickle down. And it's this, I always question sometimes with the boycotts and the what have you, it's like, that's fine. Let's not shop at Target. Let's not shop here. Let's not shop there. Whatever it is that we want to do, as long as we have clear statements of this is what the outcome is that we're going for. Because I think that was one of the beautiful things about the civil rights movement, is that it was very clear what they said that they wanted. Right. You know what I mean?
Honor
like, there was no ambivalence in it. It was like, this is what we want. We got that. Now this is what we want. We got that. Now this is what we want. You know, type of thing. It was a hierarchy. But if you're going to do it, think about how you can help the others. Because we all know, okay, so Target starts losing money, they start cutting jobs. So then how are we going to help the people who maybe lost their jobs? Because you have to figure out how you combat this section's version of how to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that that's part of some of what we're missing now, is this idea of how do we help this person? Okay, like you said, we know the insurance people aren't going to help these people because, and they're rationing their insurance or their medications. So then is there a way that we can help people get their medications? You know, or is there a way that we can help in like community hospitals or in something, so that these people aren't affected by the decisions that we're doing right here in order to hit them? And I think that was another great thing about the civil rights movement. And what they did was, it was like, they tried to always make sure that there was a way to protect the people that were like supporting them, or the people that might be displaced because of what it was that they were doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's hard. That's why, like, grassroots community engagement and finding alternative ways that get around the, you know, the bullshit jobs and the high paid administrative jobs that aren't aren't helping the community is the way we got to go. So we got to get to know people.
Absolutely. I fully agree.
Yeah.
Grassroots. I have a couple of people in my family that work for nonprofit organizations. And so definitely, if you have some in your community, they're always looking for volunteers. They always need volunteers. So by all means, get out there, find them, be part of them.
Start a church if you need to make your own nonprofit, right? I mean, that's thinking outside the box.
Please don't do that, unless you're one of those people that just randomly was called to preach. But yeah, be careful with that as well. But yeah.
So it was a great time to read Walking with the Wind.
I'll hold up mine too, in case people need to see that it's got more than one cover.
Well, yeah, mine at the bottom here, you see the really impactful shot of on the bridge with John Lewis in the famous raincoat and MLK, and then you've got the troopers.
And that mine does not have that. It just has a really cool picture of John Lewis.
Yeah. The thoughtful nerd. Yep. Says, I've learned so much from the both of you since knowing you, and I'm all the better for it. Thank you. Yay. Yeah, waiting for it to trickle down this way. Yeah. I don't know what that's about. The delay gets a little disconnected, but so I'm gonna wrap up because we are getting close to Tiffany's 2-hour limit. But thank you everyone for coming.
I know. I think I heard my father call me too. So yeah.
There we go. Cheesecake time. Getting together to listen and talk and discuss the legend that is John Lewis. And yeah, great buddy read. Great for the fall curriculum. Great for the
I will finish it.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, and it is December. It is holiday time. So, two indie authors here. If anyone likes historical fiction, if anyone likes romance or on their list, please consider some books for gifts. And that's
because over here, she's not mentioned it, but she's got some amazing books out there as well.
There we go. Okay, she was giving me a side eye about trying to start a church. It's the Church of, I don't know, what's it called? Not requisitioning. Well, I'll get back to you on the name, JC. But fabulous.
And don't start what is it, 501c just for the tax breaks. Please do it only if you care.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. So. But great to see you all here, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again later. I'm going to be on for Wednesday's wrap up. And do you know when your next video or stream will be?
I might be streaming on Twitch tomorrow. That's kind of the best I got for you.
All right. Well,
I don't know. Oh, we have the writer's room on Barrett Laurie's channel this month.
Sweet.
On a Sunday. Look for us.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again later. Bye.
Bye.